Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. Our webinar today is focused on the work-life balance during your studies. We will cover the various ways that our students are supported to define and achieve their goals whilst balancing a family or their work. This webinar is being recorded and a link will be shared with you by the end of this week. We will start our webinar with some introductions of the students that are joining us today. And then we will go straight to the Q&A, where you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions. My name is Chrispa Palaiologou, and I'm the Recruitment Manager for the MBA and the Masters in Finance. My team and I are responsible every step of the way until you submit your application. And if you have any related questions to the application or the requirements, we would be happy to answer them via email, phone call, or in person. At the end of this presentation, we will share with you the email addresses for each program you might be interested for. So today with us, we have Dolapo Adeyemi and Josefina Haque, two of our current MBA students. Firstly, I would like to thank you very much for joining us today and supporting us and our audience with this subject. Could I ask you briefly to introduce yourselves? Tell us a bit about what you have been doing before the program, where you're from, and anything that could help the audience generate some questions regarding our subject today.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Dolapo Adeyemi, and MBA 2019, so I just started August last year. I started off my career in oil and gas as a project engineer. I studied chemical engineering in the university, and after working in project engineering for oil and gas for few years, I decided to start a fashion business. Very different, I know, but yeah, it was just something I'd always wanted to do, and I decided to go for it at that point. I launched a solar bag right out of fashion school, and it's basically a leather bag that has a solar panel on it and charges all devices on the go. And after that, I also launched another brand, which is a footwear brand, and well, that was primarily because I was moving back to the UK. It was no use selling solar bags in the UK, so yeah, that's what I did right before the MBA, and I decided to apply to London Business School because I wanted to either take the business to the next level or explore other options out there. What else is there? Is it consulting? Is it finance? What just wanted to know, and also expand my network. I think that was one of the primary things for me as well. So. Yeah, that's me, Dolapo. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dolapo.
Hi everyone, I'm Josefina Haque. I'm also an MBA, but I'm a second year MBA, so I started, I'm finishing this year, it's a bit easier. I come from a consulting background. I did technology strategy consulting. I'm from the UK, so I spent in London. For those that know the UK system, you'll know that this is normal, but I did languages at university and then went into tech consulting, so not much sense there. And now I'm going into healthcare, so again, there's not a lot of normal progression there, but it's quite common in the UK. So I worked consulting for just under 3 years before starting the MBA, which I decided to do because I wanted to transition into industry away from consulting, and specifically into the healthcare industry, looking at sort of the intersection between healthcare and technology and how we can use sort of health tech to help in the future. So that's where I'm going afterwards. I'm going to go work at Johnson & Johnson full-time in a strategy team that looks at their umbrella solutions and how they can bring in tech to help with their products. On the MBA, you'll hear a bit more about my experience in general, but relating to work-life balance, I'm married, so I'm, balancing having a husband and a life with being on the MBA, and I'm also from the UK, so it's a little bit different when you're from the UK, because obviously, I don't know if you know, but 90% of the class in the MBA are from outside of the UK, meaning that the way I say it, 90% of the people dropped everything in their lives and came and started doing an MBA or a degree here, and therefore it's a bit easier for them sometimes to prioritise that, whereas if you're happen to be one of the 10% who are from the UK, my entire life, my whole family, my friends are still here exactly where they were before, and suddenly I have this massive thing that's the MBA using up some of my time, so it's an interesting balancing act as well.
Yeah, I would say it's going off of what Josefina said, so there was a tiny little detail about my life that I didn't mention earlier. It is that I have 2 kids, by the way, and a husband to go along with that, making 3. So exactly. Yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey for me, and I'll be more than happy to tell you about it as we go along. But yes, that is me.
Perfect. Thank you very much, ladies. So we just start with some warm-up questions, like, can you tell us what does a typical week look like for you when it comes to your studies, but also balancing your personal life as well?
Start with first year, makes more sense, I guess.
Yeah, first year, yes. Well, at the beginning, I moved closer to school just to be able to, take in a little bit more of everything that was going on, and I wasn't really clear on, what I really wanted to get into at the time. So I would say a typical week for me at the time was, wake up in the morning, FaceTime with my family, and then, go for classes. During lunch break, most of the time, we would have club meetings, and, because I'm also the vice president of the African Club, vice president for projects for the African Club, and also student ambassador, but I mean, it's more intense on the club side of things than on the ambassador side. And more classes afterwards, and maybe tutorials. We had lots of that, and drink in the evening with friends, and repeat the following day. So I mean, it was.
So not only you're a student here, you're a student ambassador as well.
Yes.
So what does that involve? And then we'll move back to the previous question to Josefina.
Yeah, being a student ambassador actually was the first real opportunity that I had to, interact with people from other courses and other years as well. So, and in addition to that, it also gives me the opportunity to, meet prospective students and also share my journey to the MBA with them, as well as, how I'm coping with the MBA, especially considering the fact that I have 2 kids and, have a family to take care of. So, I mean, during the first time, it was really, really important to have the support and, support of family and, my parents, and also, I would say as a student ambassador, I really did enjoy, getting that opportunity to, the other, streams and classes and courses.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Josefina?
Yeah, so I'm in second year. So first year, as Dolapo said, can be pretty intense, more so than second year, because you have a little bit less flexibility, although you still have quite a lot, but you have more classes that you have to do, and it tends to get pretty full. Second year is a lot calmer. I mean, it depends. It's entirely elective based, so it entirely depends on what you choose. So, for example, last term I had 6 classes, which meant I was pretty much on campus all the time doing classes. This term I have 1 class, so I have a class on Monday evenings, and that's it. I can't say that I planned that necessarily, it just kind of happened, but it means that the day looks very, very different this term than last term. But it means that I also have a lot of time this time to focus on extracurriculars, which I also do a lot of. So I'm organising the Women in Business Conference this year. I'm one of the co-presidents of the Healthcare Club, and I'm a student ambassador primarily. And then I've also helped out with impact consulting, and I used to be an academic rep last year. So I do a lot of extracurriculars, so I like being able to have some time this time to balance that. So my day typically now will probably involve, if it's a Monday, 3 hours of class. If it's not a Monday, no class at all, but pretty much probably 3 to 4 hours of meetings and club things and various different extracurricular activities every day, which can be anything from planning a drinks event and then attending the event, to an actual meeting with like a sponsor or a stakeholder or an external person that I'm working with as part of the club. But it's very interesting, and yes, always the evening activities, drinks or other fun social things to meet people. And also second year is a lot of traveling. So I've just spent 6 weeks traveling through Asia. So I can't say that I'm not doing a lot of classes, but I'm doing a lot of other stuff. Traveling through Asia, part of that was for the GBE. With a whole bunch of 70 other people from the MBA, and then part of that was just with some friends also from the MBA, on and off in different locations.
Perfect, thank you very much. How does LBS support work-life balance? Are there any clubs that people can actually participate? Are there any advisors that they can help you?
So I think the main way for me that LBS supports work-life balance is just by having flexibility. Everything is very flexible. So your electives are completely flexible. We now have a flexible core, which is very flexible. You can kind of tailor it around the times that you want to do, the types of classes, and that makes life much easier. So if you're somebody who has a commitment, that means that you don't want to, you can't do Fridays, or you can't do evenings, or you can't do mornings. You can just pick electives around that. and there's a lot of options to be able to do the classes you want to do at the times that suit you. So I think that's the main way. And then the other way that I would say is that LBS is incredibly good with partners, particularly, and I think with children, although obviously I'll let you talk about that a bit more. But with partners, partners can join anything that you can do. Your partner can do pretty much, except for classes. So any club, your partner's allowed to join any event, any extracurricular thing. Generally speaking, all open to partners and very, very welcome and included in everything. Which means that you're not constantly having to make that choice between seeing your partner or doing something with your friends at LBS. It kind of all becomes one and the same, and they get included and they go along the journey with you, which makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, Josefina, because it was kind of like a key criteria for me, like when I was trying to choose business schools. Like, it really stood out the fact that the kind of support that I saw that LBS provided for partners, it really did not alienate my partner, so to speak. So he did feel like he was coming on this journey along with me, and it was easy for me to get back home, and then discuss classes with him. And partners actually do get IDs, don't they?
Yeah.
And they have access to the library. They can study, and they can also go on treks with us, and we can participate in club events, and also it was very key to me making my decision to come to LBS. So and flexibility as well. So I think LBS does a good job with that, definitely.
How about the children? Is there anything?
With children, because as well, I mean, it's not something that is completely, totally unheard of for you to have kids through the MBA. Like, you have your other classmates that also have kids, and we organize walks in the park. Like, there's a partners club, there's a WhatsApp group where if you're just if you're a partner or even a student and you think, guys, I'm going to be at Regent's Park walking the dog or walking my kids, just hanging out. You come over and join me, or just do barbecue. I mean, there are a lot of activities that partners organize on that level, and just to throw this one in, last year my younger daughter turned 1, and we had this group of mothers with their kids from LBS. We had photos, and another person actually came to her dog, so it was so much fun, So there's that. I mean, the LBS family, there's that, closeness that comes along with the fact that, your partners are also involved in everything that you're doing. So you really get to do the activities together as well. Kids, partners, all,
And I know that I have a friend who had a baby girl a couple of months ago during the MBA, and his entire study group basically just relocated all study group meetings to his house, so that he'd be able to balance being a dad, and everyone was so happy to work around and to be helpful. And in our stream, I've had 5 babies. Not I have babies, but people in my stream have had 5 babies since I started the MBA, and it's a really big thing every time. You send pictures and everyone's really excited. We call them stream babies, and everything functions around the stream babies. They're invited to everything, and people are always very happy to work around the schedules. I'm so infinitely impressed by anyone that manages to have children and still do stuff that, anything you can do to help and make it easier is always done.
Great, thank you very much. Just for our audience, just to remind everyone that you can actually write your questions on the chat box below. So please free to write your questions for Josefina and Dolapo, and we'll be happy to share them with the rest of the audience. So talking about social life, because there's quite a lot of that at LBS, and family, and having to study and all this kind of stuff, how would you say that you can balance that? Are there any tips from your side that you could share with our audience, prospective students that are worried basically about these kind of things?
I would say in first year, just jump straight in, say yes to everything, be on campus, do everything. I think I basically had a chat with all of my friends from home and my family to some extent, just said to them, I'm doing this thing, it's a huge investment in your time and in money and in every sense of the word. It's a huge investment. So you want to make the most of it. You want to really make that investment count. So I just had a chat with everyone in my life, saying to them, I might be a bit out of it for a couple of months. I'm doing this thing, so I need some space and some time so that I can really get involved and not be constantly worrying about doing other stuff as well, which really helped to just have that space to be able to do that, and then to just live near campus, be here a lot, get involved in all the clubs, go to the events, just try different things out, be open to different experiences, to see the range of things, and then you can always cut back and do fewer things if you want to. And then, I mean, in terms of, you're going to have really bad FOMO, fear of missing out. It happens. You just can't possibly do everything that you want to do. So just trying to just stick to the things that you're interested in. Don't recruit for consulting just because everybody else is recruiting for consulting. I would say it's a good idea to just kind of have your own plan. Or if you want to just go with the flow, then make enough time and preparation that that's going to be possible for you. And then I think know your limits in terms of clubs. I have always been somebody that really enjoys doing extracurricular things. I enjoy contributing to the community around me in that way. So that's something that I prioritize, and I know that I'm going to spend a lot of time doing. But I've always done that, so I know that I can. Whereas, some other people maybe want to be more involved in just one club and don't want to do 5 or 6. Everyone's different in that sense. So there's that. And I think on the partner side of things, I think it's really important that your partner gets involved in stuff. I would say if you have a partner who's going to be traveling with you, who's going to be doing this with you, then they have to be doing it with you. I think my husband is a doctor, so he doesn't exactly have a flexible schedule. It's a pretty intense job, so it was very hard for him at first when we started to kind of join in and do stuff and come out in the evenings and do social stuff when he had to be on call the next day or whatever. But we had a chat before I started saying it was really important for me that he did do everything, that he did this with me, because if not, you'll find yourself a few months in and your partner won't know anybody, and it'll be much harder at that point for them to start joining in with stuff. So it's really important that up front at the beginning, they join in and they come out and they meet your friends and everything, so that then they also become part of it, and then it's not a chore for them, it's not difficult for them to get involved and to do stuff with you and to travel with you, and it's much easier then because they do everything with you. And I've been on holiday 3 times with a very good friend of mine on the MBA. His wife is now a very good friend of mine. I've literally been on holiday with her 3 times because I know her so well. She may as well be doing this with me. I see her more often than I see most of the people that are actually on the course. So I think that kind of thing is really nice.
I do have quite a different experience from Josefina because, obviously with 2 kids, someone has to be at home holding the fort. I mean, sometimes we would have childcare and he'll be able to come out, but most of the time it was just, despite the fact that we had, family helping as well, but it was a much more tough decision to make in terms of, him coming out here and, plus really about 1 hour away from here as well. Having said that though, you just realize it's part of your life. I remember speaking with Mary Fair, and she was asking me, so tell me something that is extraordinary about you, like the MBA. And I'm thinking, what is extraordinary? Because to me, having kids and having a family had become part of what I am, who I am, and it was part of my schedule. I already had my daughter would go to Fridays. I made sure that I kept my Fridays free, because I had status remain, and all the other things that came along with it. So it was just life for me. So I think you need to, it was hard as well. During the first time, I was one of the people that went to consultative presentations thinking, maybe this might be for me, but that really took me, a couple of weeks to figure out, let's forget about this. It's just going to, eat into my time really much, But there were people that, I know people that, have kids, like Judy from my stream, she has a daughter, but then she's recruiting for consulting and she's managing it really well, but I just didn't think it was for me. So it's not like consulting is the evil profession. Definitely go for it, But I would say it's really is about having that support around you and making sure they understand what it is that you're getting into and how they can be of help and accept help, because sometimes you feel like you don't want to bother people and all of that. But guess what? If you give them proper indication of what it is you're really doing, they really do understand. So and the kids have fallen into a routine where they know this is when mommy is home, this is when bedtime, we're on FaceTime, chatting, and then good night mommy or whatever, and then following morning and there, So you just really need to find what works for you, and just make sure that if you're coming into this with family, make sure you have a support system. You can't do without it for sure. So
your family are in it with you, whatever that means, whatever situation you're in. And yes, it looks very different if you have kids or don't have kids, or partner or no partner. Whoever you're doing this with is doing it with you. So I think just respect that
Yeah.
and chat with them and be involved them in the planning of whatever it is that you're doing. And in terms of prioritising extracurriculars, I should have said that. I basically said don't, but you do need to try and make things count. So like have some sort of plan. So the one thing I did know is that I wanted to work in healthcare, for example, and I know that I like helping people. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do an impact consulting project, which is something I really enjoy, it's basically pro bono consulting for charities. I found it really interesting. I picked a project that related to healthcare, so that at least if I'm spending 8 hours of my day doing something, 8 of my week doing something, then it can go on my CV and it can help me in my interviews when I'm then interviewing for healthcare. It's an experience that's useful. In the same way that I'm doing, women in business and healthcare, and the two things I can talk about in interviews. I'm not just putting effort in random areas that then aren't going to help me in some other way. And that's the way that I balance doing so many extracurriculars, because they all vaguely point in the same direction, so they still help. And there's some use to them beyond just using up my time, usually with the career side of things. So I think having some sort of focus.
Yeah, definitely. Focus is important. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next question is more, I think, for Dolapo when it comes to having that family and having those commitments and the kids, because a partner can actually fit around your schedule. Kids sometimes do not fit around your schedule, you have to fit around their schedule. How do you choose which events you'll participate to? Do you have any tips for the audience on how have you managed that first and second term basically that you've been here? How did you manage all these different choices, all these different opportunities that are coming on board? Did you just trial and error, or did you try something different?
Yeah, so even my husband at the time during the first term would encourage me to do tasters for almost everything, and eventually I remember saying to him that, gosh, I'm glad I didn't, get accepted into, the executive committee of this club, because there is no way I would have had time to do all of that, But the ones I got accepted into, I was excited about. But with the kids, it definitely is harder to get them to fit around your schedule. But again, it's back to that support. You really, it really was the fact that my mother-in-law would be the one to take them to the nursery in the morning, and my husband would pick them up in the evening, and in terms of what I went for, I always made sure that what they considered important, I never missed out on, even if it meant that I had to speak to someone on campus and take some time out. Like, for instance, I've had to miss 1 or 2 classes because I had to pick my kids. My husband had traveled to Japan then. So, again, the school understands and accommodates these things, so it really is about just being honest with yourself, There are times that you really are not going to be able to fit everything in, and just learn to know what say yes to some things and no to others. You can't do everything. So, have a clear sense of purpose, clear sense of direction. It's hard. It is hard. First time you want to do everything, but now I think I'm beginning to find my rhythm. This is the second time I'm beginning to find my rhythm. I don't feel stressed anymore. As a matter of fact, I've actually moved back home. So I come from home every morning. I make that 1 hour commute every morning. I don't even feel as stressed as I felt, So just find what works for you and stick to it, So that's what I'd say, yeah.
And also FOMO is really bad. You feel I didn't go to that party, or I didn't get that later, whatever. It can be a bad feeling, but ultimately everyone has a different journey and experience for LBS, and everyone loves it.
Yeah.
And whatever you end up doing, you're going to really enjoy, and it is a hugely, ridiculously enjoyable experience. The whole thing is amazing. So it's not a big deal. It'll feel like a big deal, but it really isn't. If you didn't get to go on the ski trip, or you didn't get to get elected, or you missed out that one party. Because everyone will tell you that it was the best party, the best trek, but then that happens 20 times in the year. So eventually you realise that, you'll be fine. It's going to be fun anyway. There'll be people that are doing what you're doing, and that are happy to work around the schedule that you're working on. It doesn't really end up making that much of a difference. And then ultimately you get to second year where everything's a lot more flexible anyway. So everything just kind of calms down a little bit.
Yeah, and speaking of treks as well, first term I was realistic with myself. I didn't go on any, but second term I have been able to fit in about 2 treks into my schedule. So and even my husband is considering going on the second one with me as well. So, yeah, it really is about just figuring out what is important to you early enough, and yeah, sticking to it. Yeah.
I think you'll just need to have a plan and be prepared. It's going to be hard work, but eventually it does work out.
It does, yeah.
And the plan will change.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
You can have a plan, but it'll change. Yeah, that's okay.
LBS is flexible. You need to be flexible as well. So yeah.
So on top of all these things you already have to do during your working schedule, you need to start considering your summer options for Dolapo and also the world after the MBA for Josefina. I don't know if you've already started, I'm guessing you have. And how do you balance that into to everything else as well? Because that means meeting recruiters or talking to people in that specific industry that you want to jump in, or doing a lot more entrepreneur stuff. How does that all balance out again within the schedule?
It all kind of fits in together. So the school through the Career Centre will organise a lot of, networking sessions, presentation sessions. Recruiters will come on campus, generally in the evenings or at lunchtimes, and you can go, and that's how you first maybe start exploring the different options available to you, and you find out what you need to do to follow down each of the different routes. It helps obviously to have some idea what you want to do when you're coming in. Most people do. That plan can change, but it just at least gives you some focus and some direction to start with. And then you just carry on down whichever path you're interested in. So if you're doing consulting, the consulting club will have 20, companies come on campus and do panel discussions and various presentations and networking. If you're doing finance, it'll be the same. The banks will all come on campus. In my case, I wanted to do healthcare. The healthcare club has, the main 5 recruiters come on campus, and then details for anyone else that you want to get into contact with as well. So you start that way, and then clubs are a good way of exploring that. So again, where I'm saying, dedicate your time to clubs that make sense. If you're wanting to go into a specific industry, there'll be an industry club that you can join that will help, and then the events that you plan through that club, the things that you attend will all make sense for your career. You'll have sponsors for that club that will make sense as well. So you start that way. That's how you meet people, and then you can do things like take part in case competitions, attend conferences. You can do extra sessions with the Career Centre always that can help you hone your more technical skills, or review your CV, or do interview prep, things like that. And then it just depends on what you want to do. If you're doing banking, there'll be a group of 20 odd people at least, who or more, 40, who will be doing interview prep together, because banking interviews are a nightmare. If you're doing consulting, you'll have there's a super case Saturday, I think it's called, where you just do case prep with different consultants that come over from different companies to help with that side of the interview. If you do healthcare, we have, there's a case competition which teaches you a bit more about the industry. We do sessions where the healthcare club will organise sessions where you learn about the NHS, and maybe it'll help you answer questions in your interview. So I think it all kind of falls under the same scheduling, the umbrella. You use your courses as well. There's some opportunities where you can go and analyse a company, say, for a course, so you can pick one that makes sense. For me, it's all just about trying to, as much as possible, consolidate things into one, so that everything you're doing counts for your career. Then it isn't quite as difficult. So then, you've got the experience without having to go massively out of your way to do it. And then just interviews can get a bit overwhelming, so depending on what you're applying for, there'll be a time of the year where you'll be super busy, you'll know up front, so maybe don't plan to organise a conference that's going to clash with that, or to do a club activity that's going to clash with that, so you have some time to focus, and then just go for it. It can be really stressful, and it feels really intense, I think, around internships particularly, but eventually everyone gets an internship and everyone's fine. And sometimes you have to be realistic about, I have a friend who's a surgeon who wants to do consulting. She's incredible, but making the switch between being a surgeon to going into consulting is pretty intense. So I think she realised after a while she had to be realistic with herself about, okay, she's not going to get from A to B in a second, so she did an internship somewhere in the middle. She worked at a corporate over the summer because she didn't have enough experience to do consulting over the summer, but then that gave her the credibility to then apply for a full-time, so now she's doing it full-time. And I think also being realistic about those stepping stones that you might have to take in between if you lack the experience in your CV and how to get that through your extracurriculars. But it can all fit in quite organically if you plan.
Yeah. And some of you might be worried by now that, oh my gosh, these people have everything all figured out and well put together and all. It wasn't always that way. You start off being a little bit flustered. I'll confess to you, I mean, and it's okay for you to want to try everything if that's your personality and you think you can handle it. But having said that, do it within the limits of the time available to you. Like Josefina mentioned earlier, rather than applying for PE jobs and consulting jobs and VC jobs all at the same time and finance jobs, you can participate in those competitions and actually see whether or not you enjoy doing those things before you then start running after those recruitment processes and aside from that, we're in London, so the London location is also fantastic. So there are schools like UCL and Imperial. Like last weekend, I was actually in Imperial for the eventual Catalyst Challenge. They were launching it, and it was, incredible meeting, more tech people. I mean, this is a business school, but you have access to like schools within London as well, where you can actually, step out to learn about things that you think you necessarily might not have had access to it at LBS, but if you look really well, you probably do already anyway. But yeah, so get creative about how you network, about how you explore things. It's not, there is no limit. LBS is not just giving you the school resources; we're giving you resources in London as well. So I would say be really smart about it and make the best use of everything that you have. The accelerators as well. I mean, I can't go on forever, but just. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. You need to be very, very resourceful generally. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share with the audience at all? I think the whole summary of what we've answered so far is that you'll need to have a lot of planning, not necessarily advanced planning, but you'll need to be very resourceful, as Dolapo just said. And you'll need to be ready to make sacrifices, but also you'll need a lot of support from your family, friends, and everyone around you. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences and coming along. Thank you very much for all the audience for being present. These are some next steps you can take to find out more and keep in touch. You can submit your CV on our website for an informal consultation for any of the programs that you're interested into. You can contact us to arrange a consultation or schedule a phone chat. So we're looking forward to hear from you. There will be more webinars coming up, so please stay tuned. If your questions were regarding our applications, eligibility for our programs and requirements, please contact the equivalent mailbox as you can see above. We hope you found that webinar useful and have a wonderful day.